Hello everyone. So yesterday we have discussed about the moment of resistance for beam design. Now today we will design a beam, a complete beam. So these are the following steps which needs to be followed to design a beam. Okay. So we will consider the IS 456 2000. We will consider the IS 456 2000 and some clauses are there to determine the actual value for the following points. Okay, so let's see. So the first one, to determine the effective span. Okay, to determine the effective span, let's go to the code. Look, this is the effective span, and here it is said that unless otherwise specified, the effective span of a member shall be as follows. So let's see. For simply supported beam or slab, so as you already know in strength of material classes that there are types of supports are there, right? Simply supported, cantilever or continuous, right? So for simply supported case, the effective span of a member that is not built integrally, definitely, so that is why it is simply supported, with its support shall be taken as clear span plus the effective depth. So clear span plus effective depth of the slab or beam. Okay, this is first one, and the second one is center to center distance of the support. So whichever is less. So let's draw it, then only you can understand. So suppose this is the beam. The diagram may be given in the problem or may not be given, but the datas are given. So this is the clear span. Okay, this is the clear span. Suppose this is L, and you know that if you make a cross section over here, you will get this kind of section where this is the effective depth, right, and this is the overall depth. This concept you already know. Now as per the clause, for simply supported beam, it is said that it will be minimum of two value. Okay, so what are two? First one is the clear span plus the effective depth. So this is the clear span and this is the effective depth, and second one is the center to center distance between two supports. So center to center distance between two support means this is from here to this center, center to center distance between two support. So whichever is less, we need to consider that value. Okay, so that is said in point 1 for simply supported beam. Now it is for simply supported, for several cases it is given. So if I mention the for continuous beam, for cantilever, for frames, there are given simple one. Just I am showing the continuous beam or slab. For in case of continuous beam or slab, in this case continuous beam or slab, if the width of the support is less than 1/12 of the clear span, that means, so this is my support, right? So this is, if this is continuous like this, na, so if this length, the clear span, this one, and if this particular width is 1/12 of this span, suppose L. So if this is within this range, 1/12 of L, if this is within, suppose this is W. So if the W is within this range, that means 1/12 of L, then we will consider the 22.2A. Okay, look, 22.2A, this one means we consider it as a simply supported beam. Okay, but if it is not within that range, if it is wider than 1/12 of the clear span or 600, whichever is less, that means if it is greater than that this value or the 600, so this is the maximum limit. So if it is greater than that, that means if it is 700 or 800, we need to consider this 600, whichever is less. Okay, so for that cases we need to consider these 3 points. That means one end fixed and one end continuous, these particular points. Okay, so I will come later on when we solve this kind of problem. Let's do let's describe another point. So I hope all of you can understand this point. Now the effective depth, or you can say the check for the deflection. This is actually the checking for the deflection. So in this point, it is given in the clause number 23.2.1. okay, let's go to get there. 23. Yes, this one, 23.2.1. So the vertical deflection limits may generally be assumed to be satisfied provided that the span to depth ratios are not greater than the value obtained as given below. That means this is the maximum ratio value of span to the depth, okay, span to the effective depth, the clear effective span to the effective depth. The ratios, these are maximum values of the ratios, that is 7, 20, 26. If it is cantilever, then the span to effective depth, it is 7 for cantilever. Now for simply supported it is 20, for continuous it is 26. Now you know, suppose the L is given, the length is given, the effective length you can calculate. For if you know this L value, if you know this 7 value or the ratio, then you can calculate the value of D, that means the effective depth, right? So this is for the cantilever case. Now for simply supported case you can also calculate the D, for continuous you can also calculate the D. Now this is only applicable for the spans up to 10 meter, okay, this is not for greater than 10 meter. Now for spans above 10 meter, you can see that the values in A, that means this is A point, the values in A may be multiplied by the 10 by span in meters. That means what? Suppose the span value is 20 meter, okay. Now we need to convert this value which is given in A into, by multiplying the value 10 by span, that means 10 by 20, okay. This particular thing we need to multiply with these things depending on the support condition. So suppose this is a cantilever one, so you multiply with 7 into 10 by 20. Suppose it's simply supported and 20 by 20 in this way, okay, because if support condition is given, or you can you need to see the diagram. Now the third point is that depending on the area and the stress of the steel for tension reinforcement, that means for the tension reinforcement we need to multiply a modification factor depending on the figure number 4, okay. So let's see the figure number 4. This is the figure number 4, okay. Now here you can say this is the modification factor, and one side in x direction it is given the percentage of tension reinforcement. So this is the tension reinforcement. Now in such problems, suppose in case of beams we consider the PT, that means the percentage of steel is 1% generally. In case of slab we consider it is 0.4 to 0.5% generally when we going to start our problem, okay, because it is not given, but we need to consider one percentage of steel, then we continue and then we will cross check that whether it is stable or not, okay. So for that case, suppose we consider 1%, so this is 1%. Now we also need to calculate this curve. Which curve we need to consider, because if you consider this curve you will get the separate value, if you consider this curve you will get separate value. So how this curve, that means this Fs value calculate, this Fs, what is Fs? Fs is the steel stress of service loads in Newton per millimeter square, okay, and this Fs is calculated, you can see, I think it is not very much clear. This Fs is equal to 0.58 Fy into AST required by AST provided, okay. So now you can ask, sir, what is AST required and what is AST? Look, this is the area of steel under tension, you already know AST, but yeah, this is requirement and this is provided. How? Look, suppose the area of steel which you get after calculation, that is 135 millimeter square, but can you provide exact value of this 135 millimeter square? Look, you will provide two numbers, 8 mm dia bars. What does it mean? It means that you know the cross sectional area of the 8 mm dia bar, that is pi by 4 into 8 square, near about 50 point something millimeter square, okay. Now two numbers means it is 100 point something millimeter square. Now if you use three numbers, so how will get, that is 150 point something, which is greater than this 135 and which is very much near to this 135, right? So yeah, in this way you will provide the AST required, that means 3 number 8 mm dia bar at the rate, suppose this is 200 center to center distance. This thing I will come later on. So in this way we will provide. So this is the area AST provided. So what is the value of the AST provided? AST provided will be 3 into pi by 4 into 8 square. This is the value of AST provided and this is the value of AST required. So we will put these two values over here and we will get the value of Fs. Okay. Now when you get the value of Fs, you get the curve. Suppose this curve you get. Okay. Now when you get this particular curve, so this is the 1%. This is for 1% PT, because we already know for beam we generally consider 1%. So for 1% here, and this particular curve we will get the intersection point over here, and the modification factor is this, that means 1.4. In this way we can calculate the modification factor. Okay. Now come to the overall depth. Now when you got the value of the small d, you can calculate the overall depth. How? Yes, if you follow this diagram, this is the effective depth and you just need to add this half dia of the main bar and the clear cover, right? So this half dia, this diameter you also consider, this is as per your design, and the clear cover, this clear cover actually depends on the exposure condition. Exposure condition, okay. And the value of this exposure condition you can get from the table number 16 IS 456 2000. Okay, here you can see this is the table number 16 and this is the exposure condition, and depending on that the nominal concrete cover it is given, it should not be less than 20, 30, 45 and 50, 70 depending on the exposure condition respectively. Okay. Now yeah, definitely we will consider this thing when we will start a design. So yeah, so what will be the capital D, that means the overall depth, that will be small d plus half dia of the main reinforcement bar and plus the clear cover. Okay. So yeah, yes, in this way you can determine the value of the overall depth. Now the size of the beam, so definitely when you got the this d value, so size of the beam already we determined, that is b by, this is b and this one is d, this is the total size of the beam. Now we will continue for the load calculation. So before that I am just removing these things. So coming to the load calculation, so load calculation, that means we need to determine first the self weight. Okay. Now suppose the dimensions are given b and d, what will be the value of the self weight? The self weight would be nothing but b into d into 25, because you know that the unit weight of the RCC is 25 kilonewton per meter cube, right? So 29, so whatever the value we get, that will be in kilonewton per meter. Okay, because we are considering 1 meter length. So definitely if it is 5 meter beam, so you just have to multiply it with the 5. Okay. Now for plastering we consider 1 kilonewton per meter, and the imposed load or live load, if it should be given, and suppose this is 4 kilonewton per meter, live load 4 kilonewton per meter. Okay. So ultimately we need to add all those values, suppose that becomes x kilonewton per meter. Now we need to convert this load into the ultimate load or the factor load, so that will be Wu, that is 1.5 into x. So that is the ultimate load that we need to determine in load calculation. Okay. So when we solve the problem we will see this. So this is for the load calculations. Now when the load calculation is done, then we need to check the effective depth. Okay. So for that we need to go for the annexure G, IS 456 2000. So let's go. Here you can see this is the Annex G, and to check the effective depth, you need to consider this formula, mu limit is equal to 0.36 xu max by d in bracket 1 minus 0.42 xu max by d and bd square fck. So this xu max by d you already know, this is for Fe 415 it is 0.48, So we have also shown you how this particular value came in the previous classes, and I will also show you how this formula came actually. This is not no need to remember this particular thing. Look, it is very simple. So what is the compressive force? Look, if you see the diagram in limit state design, sorry, this is T and this is C, right? And this is the lever arm, this is D minus 0.42 XU, and what is the value of this particular C? That is 0.36 FCK BXU, right? And you just put this value 0.36 FCK XUB into the lever arm, that is D minus 0.42 XU, right? Now look, I am just removing this one. Now if you simplify, or you just write it like this, FCK XU by D, then you need to put here a D and B is there, and you take this D common and here is another D. So 1 minus 0.42 XU by D, right? Now if you put here the mu limit, because it is the limiting condition, because we are providing here max, here it also max, so it is the maximum value, that is why it is the limiting condition. So you can see this formula is the same as that is given in the Indian Standard Code. Look, 0.36 XU max by D, 1 minus 0.42 XU max by D, BD square FCK. This is same as this. Look here, BD square and FCK. So yeah, this is the actually formula. So you don't need to remember that particular thing, which is a very simple thing. And in this way, we can get the maximum moment, that means the limiting moment for that particular design. Okay, the maximum moment you already know that for suppose a simply supported beam, if there is uniform load is coming, the W per meter, so the maximum moment will be W L square by 8, right? So we just have to check the mu limit and this m value. If this m value is less than this mu limit, then our structure is safe, right? But yeah, if it is greater than, then you have to change the dimension of the beam, and then you have to do the same steps what we have done till now. Okay, so in this way we can check it for the effective depth. Okay, now to determine the area of steel. So to determine the area of steel, same we go for annexure G. So look, the area of steel is also calculated by using the following formula, that is also very much simple. M is equal to 0.87 FY AST into D into 1 minus AST FY by BD FCK. Okay, so we will solve a problem to make it clear. So in this way we determine the area of steel which is required. Okay, now the next point is check for the minimum tensile reinforcement, that is given in 26.5.1.1. So let's go there, the minimum reinforcement. Yes, so here you can see this is the minimum reinforcement which is required, that is AS by BD equals to 0.85 by FY. Okay, so all the values you already know. B is the breadth, D is the effective depth, FY is the yield stress, and 0.85 is the value, and you just need to determine the AS value. This is the minimum reinforcement. Okay, now so shear check, we also need to determine the shear check, and that means whether the shear reinforcement is needed or not. So let's go to the clause number 40.1 of IS 456/2000. Okay, so this is the 40.1. Here you can see the nominal shear stress is given, the formula is tau v is equal to VU by BD. Okay, so what is VU? VU is the shear force, and which can be calculated by WL by 2, you already know. Now this is the nominal shear stress where you can calculate that is tau v, but we also need to calculate the design shear stress, that is tau c. By comparing these two, we will consider whether the shear reinforcement is given or not. Okay, so let's go to the table number 19 to determine the value of the tau c. Okay, so this is the table number 19. Here you can see, depending on the percentage of steel value PT, this is the AST by BD, that is PT, percent of steel value, for different grade of concrete, for M20, M25, M30 and M15. For different grade of concrete, the value is given that for the tau c. Okay, that is in Newton per millimeter square. So these are the values of the tau c. So suppose the percentage of steel is 0.50 and the grade is M20, so the tau c value will be 0.48. Okay, so in this way we can determine the value of the tau c. Now, so considering the tau v and tau c, comparing that, we can provide the shear reinforcement is need to be given or not. Okay, now if it is not given, the minimum shear reinforcement has to be given, that is given in 26.5.1.6. so let's go there. Look here, what I am saying, that minimum shear reinforcement, look, if when the tau v is less than tau c, so tau v we have calculated, tau c we have also calculated. Now if the tau v is less than the tau c, okay, so this tau v, if it is less than the tau c, so less than the tau c, the minimum shear reinforcement shall be provided according to with 26.5.1.6. So if this is less than this condition satisfied, then we need to go for the 26.5.1.6. Yes, so this is the 26.5.1.6. Here you can see ASB by BSB greater than equals to 0.4 by 0.87 Fy. So ASB, that means what? The total cross sectional area of stirrup legs effective in shear. So stirrup, you already know the stirrup. Now if there is 2 leg stirrup I am providing, then it will be pi by 4 into 8 square into 2, because it is 2 leg stirrup. Okay, if it is 1 leg, so these two do not need to multiply. And SB is the spacing, and B you already know, that is the breadth of the beam, and in this way you can determine the SB, that means the spacing. Okay, now the last one, that is the deflection check. So deflection check you already know, we have explained in the point number 2, that is in 23.2.1, that is in the code, that is 23.2.1. we have some ratio, that is L by D ratio, and we have multiplied with the modification factor, right? Modification factor. Now initially when we determine this modification factor, we consider the percentage of steel is 1% for the beam, right? And for the slab it is 0.5 to 0.4 to 5%. But yeah, when we finally came in this particular stage, we got the AST required and also we got the value AST provided. So we will put this particular value and we get the value of modification factor, and then we will determine the L by D. Okay, so we get actually some value, that is L by D, and after that we will determine the L by D depending on the size of the or the dimension of the beam, because we have determined the capital D as well as the small d, and we also know the effective length. So depending on that we will get another value. So we will compare these two value and then we will satisfy that whether it is stable structure or not. Okay, So in this way we can design an RC beam in limit state design. Okay, so definitely I will start a problem to solve to make it very clear to all of you. Okay.